I first discovered Bob Dylan through Peter, Paul and Mary and Judy Collins. This is back in probably the mid 90s, 1994, give or take. And my dad asked for a Judy Collins cassette that was all Dylan covers. So I bought it for him for his birthday. And that's really where it began, listening to somebody else's versions of his music. But within a few months, my dad bought me Highway 61 Revisited. And I haven't looked back since. For me, Dylan acted as a guide, I think, during that late high school and into college period, just helping me kind of make sense of the world and, giving me a perspective on the 60s and 70s and that sort of thing. I was lucky enough to first see Dylan in concert in 1995. He had Patti Smith as his opening act, and it was called the Paradise Lost Tour. But of course, I didn't know who Patti Smith was, and I only really remember three things about the concert. But that still matters. Girl, she's in paradise. It really wasn't until I went to college that I got involved with my college's radio station. And I had a show that I played nothing but Dylan. And I slowly started buying Dylan's albums by going to a monthly record show in a high school cafeteria. So I found a guy, like I called him my dealer, and every month I would acquire another Dylan album, just slowly build my collection that way, which, Dylan probably had 40 albums at that point, but yeah, I needed a way to manage my, my habit. I also got involved into the local jam band scene. So I would also play some like Grateful Dead and more, improv type music as well. But I wrote research papers about Haight-Ashbury, the Summer of Love, that kind of thing. I really wish I could have seen the Dylan and the Dead tour. And I actually almost had the chance. My dad in 1995 came to me and said, "Do you want to go down to Washington, D.C. and see Dylan and the Dead?" And I was like, yes, of course. However, a school field trip got in the way. Remember when your telephone As of November 2019, I have seen Bob Dylan 70 times, and it's a number that I don't know if I ever had a goal in mind. Back when I was 25, I thought, oh, it'd be great if I could see Dylan 25 times by the time I'm 25, and I just about did it. I think I saw the 25th show was while I was 25, so that counts. And back in those days, I think the reason that I wanted to see him so much was because you never knew what you were going to get in a concert. Back then, his set lists were changing night to night, and there were usually patterns, and I was a little bit of a geek about the statistics for all the concerts. I would keep track of what songs was he playing each night and how likely were we to hear one song over the other. And I took these little notebooks with me, and I would take notes during the shows. So I have that as a record. I think the thing that keeps me coming back is, the reason that I want to keep singing Dylan is just simply to see what is he going to do. Even if it's just an average show, I know him well enough, or I know what a normal show is like, that I can I can kind of enjoy myself, and just look for those things that maybe the average person isn't going to notice, like the way he's standing at the microphone or little things like that. Over the years, I have seen a lot of different band members come through Dylan's band, and I have my favorites, like Larry Campbell, Charlie Sexton. There was a period of 3 or 4 years where I thought the band was just perfect. I think every time a new band member comes into the mix, of course, things are going, the sound is going to be different. My favorite show is actually one of the very earliest that I saw, going back to 1998. It was, let's see, it was College Park, Maryland. He was playing with Joni Mitchell as his opener, and it was really something else. But the reason it's my favorite show is because he played a song that I was not expecting him to play. He played Leopard Skin Pillbox Hat instead of Rainy Day Women, number 12 and 35. So, it wasn't even a rare song. It just was that it broke the pattern.
We'll go and see you sometime. We'll both just sit there and stare. Me with my belt wrapped around my head and you just sit there in your brand new Leopard Skin Pillbox hat.
And I was so shocked that I jumped up out of my seat, started jumping up and down because I just could not believe it. And then I was with my dad and one of his friends, and our seats were pretty good. They were off to the side of the stage, and I am convinced Dylan, after he finished his set, he saluted in my direction. And so I'm convinced he saw me freaking out and, kind of gave me that little acknowledgement. And so that's why goes down as one of my all-time favorite shows. One of the highlights of my career to this point is when in 2019, there was the World of Bob Dylan conference in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is where his archives now live. And I presented a paper called Tangled Up in the Tracks. And I haven't actually published my ideas yet, but it kind of doesn't matter because I was able to share my thoughts with other Dylan fans, and it went over very well. I think the source of Dylan's respect in the greater world, I guess, not just the arts or the music scene, I think that he's still around. He hasn't disappeared. He has found ways to continually reinvent himself, even if it's doing a commercial for Victoria's Secret or something like that. Diehard fans might say he's selling out, but I think he's just a master at finding new ways to stay relevant. The other really great thing from my perspective of being a Dylan fan is that it has allowed me to travel all across the country. Pretty much covered nearly every corner of the states, Boston to DC, San Diego to Seattle, and points in between. So it's, I'm not content to just wait for him to come to my town. I use his tours as an opportunity to go out and explore. In general, I listened to a lot of top 40 growing up. So music was always there, but it didn't really become a big part of my life until I discovered the Beatles right around the same time. It just sort of hit like a tidal wave. And I can't imagine what my life would have been like if I hadn't discovered Dylan.